Life is hard, but it could be worse. Life is hard,
When will we release this episode?
but it could be worse.
Maybe Saturday.
Life is hard.
Welcome to the Life is Hard podcast. As we talk through the intro music,
Are we recording? Okay.
we are recording.
Awesome.
We are on the air, live, but not live. Recorded live.
Right. So if I told you to get out of your damn chair right now and you didn't.
It's recorded live with editing possibly involved.
Okay, bad start. Is that what you're saying? Look, this is the...
I'm saying go ahead.
Yeah, this is the post-Halloween episode. We're going to discuss horrors in the school.
Is it post-Halloween?
It could be. We don't really know when it's coming out. It's sorry. This is how things happen around here.
Yes.
But we've been discussing
This may be a post-Halloween episode.
Yes. So we've been discussing, while you guys weren't paying attention, we've been discussing this girl in South Carolina who got ripped out of her chair and thrown on the floor by the police officer who was called into the room to deal with a discipline issue.
And we are mad, so pardon us while we get all soapboxy for a while.
Right.
This is ridiculous.
Well, I've got some details on this story, and hopefully I got them right. The original event that caused this was the girl took out her cell phone, her mobile phone. I hate to say the cell phones. Anyway, she took out her smartphone, I guess, and did something with it. Apparently relatively briefly, but the teacher demanded that she give up her phone, and she refused. And so, of course, the teacher, being the authoritarian type that he wasn't going to have his authority questioned, called in an administrator who then asked her to leave the classroom.
With her phone or without her phone?
I think he just wanted to remove her from the classroom.
See, I'd have probably left with my phone. I would have been like, fine, fuck you. You don't want me in class? I'll take my phone and go.
Well, this is an interesting
home.
point, because apparently her education was important to her and she was apologetic. According to the story I read, she was pleading with the administrator, saying, I didn't do anything, like I just took it out for a second, apparently something. I mean, she's a teenager. For her, some quick communication with her boyfriend or something could mean, the world. And this is the way we all were when we were teenagers.
That's assuming she was even doing something wrong. I mean, how do they even know without asking, without getting to the bottom of it, whether it's... And it would take way longer to figure out if it was merited or not.
Okay, well, my point is, when I'm driving on the road and my phone beeps at me,
Right.
even though I'm technically not supposed to pick it up and look at it because it's dangerous and illegal, it's hard for me not to do that. So let's just say something, her phone vibrated and she took it out to look at it. Okay, and the teacher saw her look at it.
And then say, okay, I can deal with that later and put it away.
Right, that sounds like that's what happened. And the teacher said, oh, nope, you're not allowed to use your phone during class. That's it, hand it to me. So she refused. The administrator comes in, says, you got to leave. She pleaded, said, hey, I want to stay in class. I didn't do anything, just let me just stay in class. The administrator said, you're not listening to me. Go get the police officer. The police officer comes in and says, get up. She doesn't get up. Bam! Just throws her on the floor, beats the hell out of her. Because that's what we do, right? We beat people up when they don't listen.
Absolutely. As a nation, as well as individually. Might makes right.
Right, and
Go USA. Go America.
Our authoritarian teacher said he felt the police officer was justified. And he's like one of the few people I've heard say the police officer, even the sheriff didn't say the police officer was justified.
Really? So actually, I'm in the majority here by being against the police officer?
I think you're probably in the majority. There are still people who are like, well, what did she do to deserve it? And I think we need to see what happened before the event. And I don't give a fuck what she did. I don't care if she cussed that police officer out.
Or flipped him off.
Yeah, what he did was violent.
Absolutely.
And he clearly set a bad example for everybody else in that classroom.
Even if she was being violent to him, and this is where I have a problem with many of these incidents, right? Like, oh, they attacked a police officer or whatever because they hit him with their fist. He's got a fucking gun. He's got a baton. He's got a taser. You can withstand a punch. You be the better man. You're the fucking police officer. You stand there and take the punch from the teenage girl and say, you know what?
Right, well then you charge her with punching a police officer, but you don't beat her up.
Okay,
Yeah.
but even if you don't have to go that far, you don't even have to charge her with punching a police officer. Like,
Well,
there was
the point is that's what the law, allows them to do.
there was the movie. I'll never forget this. It was the best part of the whole movie. There's a movie called Crimson Tide. It's got Denzel Washington and Gene Hackman in it. Gene Hackman is the captain of a submarine. Denzel Washington is the XO, the vice captain, whatever. Right. You know, he's second in command. Gene Hackman's first. The second in command decides that the guy in charge, Gene Hackman, is putting everybody in the world in danger because of the long backstory. The point is, there's about to be a mutiny.
Yeah.
Right? And Gene Hackman punches Denzel Washington square in the face. And Denzel Washington does nothing but look at him. In that moment, all the power was with Denzel Washington because he absorbed the punch and did not respond. It did not faze him at all.
It didn't knock him psychologically off his base.
And that needs to be the police officer.
Absolutely.
Punch me in the face and I'm just going to stare at you and say, now are you done?
And actually this situation was the opposite. She simply defied his authority and he lost control.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
He's just an angry person. I don't think it was anything. Some people say it was racial. I don't think there's anything racial about it. Someone defied that police officer's authority. It could have been, a green guy. It could have been a black guy. It could have been anybody. That police... I'm about to cuss, I'm sorry. That police officer lost control. He's like, you can't defy my order. And
he's not the only one. I don't want to say they all, but many of them.
It's like you expect it from a cop.
It is systematic. Exactly. The people defending them on Facebook are saying, well, you have to comply with the cop.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
Well, actually, there was a police officer who I saw quoted saying that officer did what he had to do. The mistake was that they called in a police officer to deal with a disciplinary issue. They should never have called the cop because he only has certain tools available to him, and this is what he's trained to do. I think that's bullshit anyway because, again, like you said, he was not being threatened. He was not in any danger, and he's a trained militant, whatever you want to call him. Like he's trained to deal with physical altercations and whatever. So he should have been able to deal with that situation without, tipping her chair over, throwing her across the room. I mean, he was acting out in anger. He lost control. I don't care what anybody wants to tell me. He clearly lost control. There's some people that are saying, well, she punched him or whatever when he was on the floor. I'm like, it's too late. That was after the fact. He's the one who lost control.
Well, I saw something even that said she swatted at him or threw a fist at him when he tried to pull her out of the chair. But I don't even...
That wasn't...
I still don't care. If one person tries to pull another person physically out of a chair against their will, they are in the wrong every single time, except society says, in this instance where it's somebody who has authority, and that frickin' goes to their head. They carry that around with that, like you said, I am the law. Right. You must obey everything I tell you because I have a badge and a gun and a taser and a baton and you must listen to me. Well, that's bullshit.
Well, that's part of their training, from what I've read recently, because we see this constantly. So the way they're trained is they're trained to control the situation. So as soon as somebody doesn't do what they ask them to do, they're supposed to physically take control. They're supposed to puff up their chest, act all big, knock you down, whatever, handcuff you, let you know that they're in control. And I'm like, okay, so you got a freaking little teenage girl who's 100 pounds, and you have to beat her up to show you're in control.
Well, I mean, going all the way back to Rodney King.
Yeah.
They
showed him.
Unnecessary,
yeah, they showed
10 of them. They were in control of that situation.
Beat him with billy clubs,
right? And kicked him on the ground and all that stuff
until he's brain dead, practically.
Just because you're in control does not mean you're in the right.
Well, no, I'm not suggesting. Again, he wasn't in control. He lost control when he grabbed her on the neck. He flipped her chair backwards. Whatever she did, swinging her arms or whatever, would have been just a natural reaction to being assaulted. Right. And given the situation, imagine you're sitting in a chair and all of a sudden it's going over backwards. You're going to react somehow because your whole world has been just turned on edge.
And the whole thing, and we do this all the time as a culture, to cut off our nose to spite our face, because the whole premise of this thing was that learning was being disrupted.
Yeah.
She, the girl, was disrupting the learning of the entire classroom. But what about the teacher who called the administrator? What about the administrator who called the cop? What about the cop who made a big fucking scene in the classroom? And the whole ordeal probably took 20 minutes that they could have been learning shit.
Well, yeah.
If they would have just gotten over the fact that she pulled out her phone for a minute.
And what kind of an effect does it have on a classroom full of children when they see in their world that the police behave like this? I mean, when you call the police, this is what happens. If the police are called in, you can expect somebody to be beat up and arrested or killed.
And even that the teachers act like this. I mean, is the teacher supposed to be authoritarian in the classroom, or are they supposed to teach? Just fucking teach.
Yeah.
You know, if the kids don't want to learn it and sit there and play on their phones, they're not going to learn it. That's not your... I mean, it's sort of your concern.
Well, if she's disrupting the class for the other people, then yeah. But if she's just doing her phone silently, then it's her problem. It
depends on how she was disrupting the class for the other people. And then if you're going to make that argument...
I'm not saying she was. I'm saying if she was.
I know.
If she's making it impossible for other people to learn.
And I'm saying if people listening are going to make that argument and say, well, she was disrupting the rest of the class and they have a right to learn... Okay, maybe. But if you're going to make that argument, then I want you to show me the poll numbers. I want you to poll all the kids in that class and see who was actively interested in that topic right at that point and who cared that they were being disrupted. Because I know in the classes that I was in school, if somebody else was being disruptive, nobody gave a shit. They weren't like, shut up, I'm trying to listen. Nobody did that. You know,
well, and if anybody was disruptive, it was the cop. I mean, that's gotta...
I was one of the few that cared, and you can be over there dicking around all you want. You're not stopping me from paying attention to what the teacher's doing. If you're screwing around, that's your own fault. And occasionally, we did have times where somebody was overly disruptive, or people wanted to hear this because it was going to be on the test or something like that. And the kids would take care of the other kids. They would say, shut up. There's going to be on the test. I can't fail. Shut up.
Yeah, or the teacher would say, I'll see you after class. Usually it wasn't the teacher wasn't the one who stopped the class and said, oh, okay, look, this kid just did something, so I'm just going to shut the whole thing down, and everybody is going to pay the price.
If you don't all want to learn, then no one's going to learn.
Exactly. If one of you takes out a phone, the whole thing, I mean, what I saw a lot of from the people that were defending the cop, they were making assumptions about what she did. They were all like, well, the video doesn't show what she did, so I'm just going to assume she did something terrible and she deserved what she got. They just assumed that she did something really terrible. And I don't know, she couldn't have done anything. As far as I'm concerned, there's nothing she could have done.
The only difference in my mind is if that video would have gone out and it was somebody who did not have systematic authority, if it was just some random dude,
oh my gosh. Yeah.
We would have went fucking ballistic, right, on behalf of the girl. And nobody would have cared what she did. But because the person in question is systematically propped up to have that power, and that's my issue. No one person, no system should have that kind of power over a person. We have totally turned the world upside down to where people, individuals, are subservient to the system now. The system does not work for the people. The people work for the system. And if you don't obey the system, fuck you, we're going to plant your face in the floor.
I think that's why you bring a police officer into the classroom like this, in this case, is you're teaching people at a young age to just do what you're told.
Yeah.
Because if you don't just do what you're told, you're going to get slammed on the floor, you're going to get bounced around, you're going to get beat up, handcuffed, and hauled downtown, and society will stand behind that cop.
Absolutely. Because society doesn't want you to do what you want to do. They want you to do what you're told so that they feel better.
Yeah. But to be fair, though, most people were against the cop in this one. Most of the stuff I saw, people were like, this is indefensible behavior. So at least there's some, sane people out there. They're just not listening to our podcast. Oh, sorry, guys. Thanks for
I
listening.
think only the sane ones would be listening to our podcast.
Well, that's how I would feel,
But it could
but
be
obviously
worse.
I have a jaded.
Life is hard.
Maybe we're just nuts for the human.
But it could
Comments
be
to
worse.
comments at lifeishardpodcast.com.
And if this episode didn't generate
could be
comments, I
worse.
don't know what will.
Subscribe,
Life is hard.
like us on YouTube, the whole
But
9
it could
yards.
be worse.
Where does that come
Life
from?
is
Oh, that's a
hard.
football thing.
But it could be
Or a
worse.
prison movie.
Life is hard. But it could be worse.